Brian, where would you rank the Niners in this division? Because the NFC West is a really interesting one to me yet again this year.
Well, look, I'm going to pass the buck a little bit because our Locked On Network hosts vote periodically on power rankings. And not because of my vote, but the 49ers were actually the sixth ranked team in our network-wide power rankings. And I think a lot of people were shocked by that. And I certainly think the 49ers can get back there. And you look at the 49ers on paper, they have some holes, but they still have their foundational pieces. Salah's back in the fold on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously Kyle Shanahan's going to coordinate a great offense. Christian McCaffrey back healthy, and obviously Brock Purdy's been paid, and say what you want about Brock Purdy, but the efficiency is there, and just a great fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense. So there are some reasons to be excited about the 49ers season, and there's not a lot of perfect teams in the NFL. And I think right after that top 5 teams in the league, which none of them are NFC West teams, when you start talking about the Lions and the Eagles in the NFC, and then the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills in the AFC. Those are the top tier of NFL teams. And then I think there's about a dozen teams after that you could argue belong at the top of the next tier. And I think possibly all 4 NFC West teams are among them. So this is one of the true seasons where I think it's a shotgun start in the NFC West. I really wouldn't be shocked about just about any order in the standings at the end of the season with these 4 teams. I do think it's probably 49ers, Rams at the top, but as good as the Rams have played, and the Rams do have the best quarterback in the division, I think, and they've got some really nice young players, but they're not a super complete team either. There's still some transition going on with the Seattle Seahawks, and then the sleeper team is the Arizona Cardinals. So this is going to be a really fun division. I think they're all going to be solid teams. I think they're all above the midline. Which team takes a huge step and is really a juggernaut team, I'm not sure. So I think it's going to be a really fun year, and the NFC West is going to be a really fun division to follow. Niners, I would probably put right there with the Rams at the top right now.
Okay. What do you think the ceiling is on this team, and what do you think the floor is? Because I feel like I still feel a bit of the whiplash from what last season looked like coming off of the Super Bowl loss. Like, I would have never, ever in any world had their ceiling that low, or their floor that low. Where do you see their ceiling and their floor heading into this season?
This has been a Kyle Shanahan thing, and we've seen 8 years of this now, and the Niners have been either awesome or not great. The 49ers have drafted second. The 49ers have drafted 11th. The 49ers have drafted, 9th? And so this is like a team, and a couple of those drafts were the immediately following Super Bowl runs, right? So 49ers have been in a place where they've been either awesome or not good. And it's kind of the exact opposite of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they're kind of in the playoffs every year. They never hit rock bottom. They've got such a high ceiling, but they really haven't been able to win playoff games and be a team that is really scaring anybody in the AFC playoffs and the AFC tournament over the course of the last decade, really. But they're always solid. And the 49ers have been the opposite. They're either in the NFC Championship game or they're drafting in the top 12 picks in the draft. And so I would say volatility has been high in the Kyle Shanahan regime, and a lot of it is because of injuries. And I think any 49ers fan would point to all the injuries the 49ers had last year as the reason why they were a 6-win team, not because they were just a 6-win team. But the Detroit Lions had the same excuse and were just as, if not more, injured, and they weren't a 6-win team, right? So I don't know what it is about this Kyle Shanahan regime with the 49ers, but they are either awesome or bad, and there's really no in between. So even though it seems like on paper that when you have a good coaching staff and as much talent as they still have, and they still do have like the best player at their position at 3 or 4 positions in the NFL, right? They still have a ton of talent on this football team. The floor isn't as high as you would think, and they've proven that, even though you would think that they would be a better football team. So to be honest with you, I never know what to expect with the 49ers, and each year kind of has its own pitfalls.
Yeah.
But I do expect them to be a good football team, and if they have it figured out, they're going to be a playoff team once again.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free. It helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. Volatility is a good way of articulating it. How long do you think Brock Purdy's Super Bowl window is?
This is tough because there's going to for sure have to be a transition. They've kind of already started that transition into the Brock Purdy centric, the Brock Purdy led roster build.
Mhm.
Because when you have a quarterback that makes 50 times more than he was making before, it's going to change the structure of the roster,
Of
right?
course.
And so the 49ers had so much talent. And one of the things I think was key about this draft and kind of getting back to where they were, and maybe Robert Saleh allowed them to remind themselves, like, oh yeah, this was actually built around the defensive line, not around the
Mm.
quarterback originally. And things are so much easier for the quarterback if the defensive line and look, so the defensive line makes things easy for the linebackers, makes things easier for the defensive backs, makes things easier for the quarterback because they get the ball back to their offense more often. And Kyle Shanahan really loves playing in front of the sticks. And I think that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons for volatility for the 49ers because the way Kyle Shanahan coaches, the way Brock Purdy is built, the way he plays, his strengths and weaknesses, the strengths and weaknesses of the roster that Kyle Shanahan has built around the way he calls plays and the way he views things is it's all about balance. It's all about staying in front of the sticks. If you get behind, the 49ers aren't a really good team. They're not going to throw the ball, chuck it all over the yard, and come
Mm.
back on teams. So they need to stay close. They need to stay in the lead. And when they do, they are a really tough team to contend with. But Kyle Shanahan needs to have that with the way he coaches, and he needs to have that balance, and he needs to have the threat of run at all times. And then it's almost impossible to defend. And so for that reason, I think the 49ers really are in a place where they have to get back to that, and it's the strength of that defensive line. And if you ask me, if I needed to get one question answered for me to know how the season was going to go for the 49ers, it'd be like, tell me how good Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, and CJ West are, the three rookie defensive
Mm.
linemen the 49ers drafted. Because I like all of them in various roles. I think the interior defensive linemen might be more rotational guys than Michael Williams. But if you told me that they're studs and they developed a little bit more pass rush in the NFL, then I'm good. I think the 49ers are going to be a very good football team now and going forward. But the Brock Purdy build, there's not going to be Trent Williams. We know that running back careers are short, and Christian McCaffrey already showed us that. Hit 28, wheels fall off. It's the way it goes in the NFL. Even though he looks like a cyborg, he's a
Mhm.
human being after all, right?
Yeah.
And so there's not going to be Trent Williams. There's not going to be Christian McCaffrey in 2 years. George Kittle's, even though he got that extension, he's not the youngest guy in the world either. So it's gonna be a different looking football team, and they have to replace that talent with young, cheap talent through the draft. So it's now a draft and develop football team around their leader in Brock Purdy going forward.